Hello and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. A few things up front here. Okay. Let's see if we can do this faster this time. Not that I recorded this once and it was too long. This is the 100th episode of Real Person Reviews. And I wanted a game that was going to be good for it, I guess special for it. I've already done a lot of nostalgic stuff like Super Mario 64, Pokemon Blue, Ocarina of Time. I've done a bunch of that, and even some of my favorite games like all these Zelda games and my favorite game ever, Banjo-Kazooie. So I wanted something that was going to still be special and work for the 100th episode. And I picked Super Mario Bros. 3 because it's a great game. I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. And it's Mario. I mean, it seems like a pretty good fit, I think. What are people gonna find my opinions controversial on fucking Mario Bros. 3? Only if I'm like, this game sucks, and I'm gonna spoil the review for you right now. I'm not going to say that. So, sorry. I didn't go for the clickbait angle. Also, there is, in the celebration, there is a video I put up. I think I called it Real Person Retrospective. That's linked in the description. And it's just me rambling on about how I started the reviews and all that shit. And how it's evolved and whatever. And it might double as ASMR. I don't know. Some of you out there like that. So that's the thing you can check out if you'd want. But if not, I'm going to try to make this review not super long and not talk about all that shit right here. Just a small thank you guys for watching. For 100 episodes. It's crazy. It's great. And also I'm recording this in a very real fashion before, after I played the game again. But before I've done the written review. So I'm going to be kind of scatterbrained and all over the place. Sorry for the length. Sorry for the rambliness. Hopefully it is still okay. Also, I'll be showing the footage of the 3DS version. Just the Virtual Console one. So, I mean, I've played this on the actual NES. One of the first games I ever played in that handful of games I played before I had a system of my own. I've also played it on the Super Mario All-Stars pack on Super Nintendo. I've played it on Super Mario Advance 4, the Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario Bros. 3, and I've also played it on the Wii Virtual Console on top of this. So, I've played the game a lot of times, and I can testify that this version is fine, but that's where the footage is, because that's the one I have right now, so there you go. And again, I urge you to go to the link in the description, or just go to hubworldhq.com to check out the written one that will probably be better than this. But if you like listening to my voice, then you're here for that's on you. I mean, I gave you the chance and you refused. Super Mario Bros. 3, the basic plot is Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach. Mario Bros. Gotta go and save her. I don't know if she was Peach yet or still Toadstool, and if he was Bowser yet or still Koopa. Doesn't really matter. I'm gonna assume that you probably know a bit about Mario at this point to be looking at Mario Bros. Why would you go to Super Mario Bros. 3 before, before going to a previous Mario or a newer Mario? You probably wouldn't out of nowhere. So I'm gonna do something I don't normally do, and even though I haven't reviewed the first Super Mario Bros., I'm gonna assume you have played that or are familiar with that or the Mario series in general and how 2D Mario games play. And if you can't handle that, that is too damn bad. As far as actually playing, you run, you jump, you have the momentum of running, so you jump higher if you're running faster. You can jump on enemies' heads, you can duck and then jump to do like a ducking jump. You can take the shells of Koopas, pick those up, and you can throw them afterwards, along with some other items you can pick up and throw. Power-ups are, you got the mushroom, which gets you into a big Mario. You got the fire flower, which, like always, has you use the ability to shoot fire. And it's basically just a third tier of protection here, because in here, if you get hit with the fire flower or whatever, anything else of this caliber, you will then be brought back down to being just big, rather than going immediately to small. So that is different from the first Mario Bros. Anyways. There's also the new thing here is the leaf is a new one, where if you get that, you turn into a raccoon. I guess it's a raccoon suit. You don't really turn into actually a raccoon. Sort of a raccoon man, raccoon Mario, as they say. And here you have like a little tail, which if you tap A when in the air, you're able to slow your descent. You can hit B to whip your tail to hit enemies and break blocks. And then if you get your momentum up, you see a little P meter at the bottom of the screen. Once that fills up when you're running, you can then jump, and then continually hitting jump will let you actually fly. You can ascend for a short amount of time until that meter stops blinking, and then it runs out, and then you have to just fall like you usually do, or slow your ascent, whatever. You have the tail, and that's mainly how you use that. There is a frog suit, which makes you constantly jump when you're on land to move around, but when you're in water, you're able to move around wherever you would like to go and just move your position rather than having to constantly, keep yourself afloat by tapping A to do the swimming. There's the Hammer Bro suit, which allows you to throw hammers like a Hammer Bro, and that can even, it has a different arc than some of your other stuff, and it can also kill certain enemies that you couldn't kill before. And then there is the Tanuki suit, which is basically like the raccoon suit. It looks like a Tanuki, which I think that's a Japanese thing. But basically it has all the same properties, except a bonus one where you turn into an invulnerable statue for a while if you hit down and B and you hold that. I think it only lasts a few seconds to do that, but it can get you out of taking damage from certain things. So it has that added ability. And then the other power-up you have for normal power-ups is the star, which, like always, makes you invincible. This game adds in, again, I'll just quick say this, the levels, when you go through those, are basically like Mario levels. You're still jumping on enemies, trying to do all the platforming, trying to get to the end of the level, and you're getting coins and power-ups and one-ups along the way. If you, basically at the end of every stage, there's also this little thing of randomly changing symbols, and they give you a card. There's a mushroom, there's a flower, and there's a star. And for every 3 that you get, you then will get some bonus 1-ups. Now, any random assortment of 3 is going to just get you 1-up. But if you get 3 mushrooms, you get 2-up, 3 flowers, you get 3-up, and 3 stars, you get 5-up. And little tip here, if you are going at top speed and jump at the right angle, you can get a star basically every time when you hit that, if you're able to do that effectively. So that's one tip there. You also have an inventory in this one, because you actually have an overworld map, which is sort of new, I suppose. You might recognize it from Super Mario World, or some newer Mario games do that as well, where there's kind of an overworld where you go and select levels. Each of these are split up into, there's 8 different worlds, and once you beat one world, you go to the next one. You can't go back to a previous world, so it's still kind of a linear progression from world to world, but until you beat a world, you can go around to all these different areas and keep, go down the path. You can't go through a level you haven't beat yet, of course, but if you've already beat it, then you can. You have an inventory, which you can open up on this part of on this overworld map here. And this can hold items for you, which a lot of times are just like a lot of these power-ups that you can use whenever you want when you're on that world map, maybe to help you go through levels or something. There are also a few more items you can get there, too. One of them is, it's very rare, but it's a flute, which allows you to, or a whistle or a recorder, whichever they officially call it here. It's all the same shit. You can use this to go to a warp world, which allows you to select between a few of the next few worlds. It just takes you basically to the warp zone if you can get it, play it, and go there. And the worlds that are open to you depends on where you use the whistle, what world you use the whistle on, I suppose. There's a cloud item which allows you to skip over a level. Even if you haven't beaten it yet, you can skip past it. However, the way this works is that if you go back past it the other way again, you can't go past it multiple times because your cloud gets used up by passing it once. It doesn't beat the level for you; it just lets you temporarily pass it. And also, if you die in a level, you go back to the spot where the last level you beat, or the start of if you haven't beaten it yet, the start of the world, that spot. So you run that risk with the cloud, I suppose. There's also a musical note you can get, which allows you to put enemies that are on the map to sleep. Usually these are roaming hammer bros on the map, and they move around every time you beat a level. So sometimes it might be in your way, sometimes it might not be. Whenever you come in contact with them on the map, you will then go into a little fight with some hammer bros. Defeating them gets you some item as well, which goes into your inventory. And one of the possible items you can get from them, and I believe only drops from them, is a hammer, which can be used to break rocks that are scattered about sometimes on these overworld maps, typically giving you some kind of shortcut to something else, or possibly getting you to some kind of secret. There are toad huts, which you go in there's some chests, you open up one of the chests, and you get a power-up, which you just put into your inventory. I think there's only 3 pages on your inventory also, so if it fills up too far, whatever the newest thing you get will erase whatever the last thing on the list is there that you just previously got. That musical note, like I said, that puts those enemies to sleep that are roaming on the map. I don't know how long that lasts, I just wanted to mention that. I feel like it's at least a few turns. It might only be the one, possibly, but it's possibly multiple turns, possibly for the rest of the world. I don't remember. I rarely use them, so I'm sorry I didn't really test that again to give you better info on that. Maybe we can Google that. Maybe it'll be in the written one. All the more reason to also check that out, too. Also, there are these card games. Basically, these just the spade symbols from playing cards on the map. You go to those, and that's like a slot machine, basically, where you have to time these 3 sections of these slots to line up pictures of either the mushroom, the flower, or the star. And if you line up all 3, basically they just cut them into thirds and they're moving around, and if you can line up all 3 of them of the same one, you get 2 up for the mushroom, 3 up for the flower, 5 up for the star. Sometimes these cards with an N on them will appear as well. If you touch those, you then play this memory game where you keep flipping over cards and they have symbols on them, and whatever symbols are there, that's what you get if you match them. And those can show up multiple times, and every time you go there, it'll keep showing you the same set of cards until you beat one of them. And either once you miss 3 times or you beat it, it then goes away, and the next time it shows up, you'll have a new one if you beat the previous one. So it keeps going in that fashion. And very rarely, if you get a certain amount of coins, at least a certain amount of coins, on certain levels, you'll unlock a coin ship. You'll make that show up. And you can go to this coin ship, and then basically it's like this floating ship in the sky. It has a bunch of coins on it. Which of course helps you just get more 1-ups. There are also locks on the overworld map, usually, and that indicates you have to beat this little castle. And beating the little castles, you will do that, and basically those are... They're just castle levels, usually more themed around lava and fireballs and whatnot. And they always have the same kind of boss behind them. A boss where you just jump on its head 3 times and it's dead. Every one of those. At the end of each world is a very big castle, and you hear someone saying help, and Toad tells you that, oh, the king's been transformed into this creature, and you need this magic wand to save him. And then you go up onto this airship where one of the Koopalings, I forget how they're related to Bowser, if they're supposed to be his kids, or... I don't know. I don't know how they're related exactly, but they're related to Bowser. Goddammit. And you have to then go through these airships, just floating ships in the air. And usually they have a lot of cannons, a lot of perilous jumps, and drumps. And like, you know, there's some enemies there sometimes that are like these assholes that throw wrenches at you. There's things that spew fire, whatever. There's sort of a theme to them, I suppose. But usually it's trying to survive the scrolling screen of these levels. They're almost always automatically scrolling levels that you have to survive through. You get to the end, and then you fight one of the Koopalings, which are bosses that are, you know, you still have to jump on their head 3 times is essentially what you have to do, but they have these magic wands so they can shoot magic at you have to avoid. And they have their own little tricks, like one of them shoots hoops around that you have to avoid. One of them has balls bouncing around the room. Sometimes they can stomp the ground and temporarily stun you, which can be, you know, pretty hazardous. So, you know, you have to tackle them in different ways depending on what each one specifically does. And after you win, you get the magic wand back, you go down, and it's like, oh, you saved the king, and then you go to the next world. That's essentially how all the worlds go, except for the final world, which is a bit different in the sense that, like I said, I didn't mention that before, being the small castle, in case that wasn't implied enough, that unlocks the locked doors that are there. Sometimes making shortcuts, sometimes so you can progress. Alright. Just wanted to make that clear in case I wasn't clear enough, it wasn't implied enough. There you go. But after you go, you know, the last world is a little different in this sense, because there are other locks here, I think. I think there might be multiple castles. I think there's like 2 of those little castles in the final world. There's also these different weird levels where they're almost like roaming levels, except they're just sitting stationary, and they're tank things, where there's this scrolling tanks, similar to the airships, sort of, except that the enemies just come straight towards you. They're kind of interesting. It's a bit of a more interesting world, and it's definitely tougher. And at the end of that world, you have to go through Bowser's Castle, and then ultimately have a showdown with Bowser, who is a unique boss fight, beat him, and then you win the game. As far as also multiplayer, there's some of that, which plays in the sense that there's Mario and Luigi. Player 1's Mario, player 2 is Luigi. And you take turns in the sense that one player plays, and whether they beat the level or die, that's their turn, then the next player plays until they either beat the level or die. You can also go to the previous level that the other player beat and select that to go into this mini game, which plays like the arcade Mario Bros, where you gotta hit enemies from under the floor to flip them over and jump up there and kick them. And the first person to enough points wins that. During this, you can actually knock each other's cards out of each other by either jumping on the other player's head or bouncing them. I think you can jostle them from the bottom. I don't know if that makes them drop it or not. I forget. I didn't replay multiplayer for this because I kind of couldn't without someone else with a 3DS to play. But the POW block in the middle there also can knock those out of those cards out of the players, and so you can have your cards shuffled around that way as part of the struggle to try to win. And also you would want to not die, because if you die and then you by getting hit by the enemies, you will just lose. And other than that, yeah, it basically just switches off play for most of those, and then of course it divides up then whatever items you get. Speaking of items, the one item I forgot to mention, but I'll mention it now because I don't want to redo this video a 3rd time, is the P-Wing. It's an item you don't get too often. I believe it's... You might find it in some chests, I'm not sure, but I know the main way you get P-Wings is from the letters you get from Peach at the end of each world. She usually encloses something for you to use, and a lot of times it's a P-Wing. What this is basically it's giving you a raccoon suit along with infinite of that P meter on the bottom, so you can just fly for the entirety of a level. At least until you're hit. At the end of the level, though, your pea suit basically is used up. Once you either die, get hit, or if you beat the level with the pea suit, if you somehow miraculously do that, I mean, it's not miraculous, I guess. It's usually pretty easy if you have the pea suit. Or I guess the pea wing. It's a wing. It looks like a hand to me all the time on the thing. It's definitely not a suit. It's a pea wing. It's like a raccoon suit, but a pea wing. Pea wing. Pea wing. If you beat it with that, you can keep going. You can still have the raccoon suit after that, but it won't have the magical meters always full afterwards. So it's basically a use for one level only. I just thought I'd mention that so we didn't think I forgot about it, because I almost did. And of course those, I don't know if those are split up or not. I guess that's why I brought it up. Is I don't remember if the end of level thing only goes to the person who beat the airship, or if it goes to both. Hard to say. And there's a lot of, a lot of stuff is great for this game. Not to mention the multiplayer, which is the thing I played a ton of when I first played it, usually playing a second player. It was great to be able to switch off and not have to, sit there and wait for, like in the first Super Mario Bros., be like, oh yeah, I'll just sit here and wait for my brother to, die, or more likely just fucking beat the game, but then I get to play the exact same game, and I almost should have just not had this be a mode and just handed off the controller in single player. It's nice to switch off, and it gives you the ability to be cooperative or competitive if you want to. It adds a lot of dynamics to the the Mario Bros. Arcade game when you're both playing at the same time. That's pretty hectic, and especially when you're trying to screw each other over. It's like, do you try to get your stuff back? Do you try to get your stuff out of the opponent? Or you try to win? There's a lot to consider, and it's pretty nuts. Also, it marks the level with the letter of the character who beat it. And so, I don't know, like, there's this competitive sense of, even if you're still working together to try and keep getting through the game, you can still be like, I'm beating more levels than you by the, the letters on there. And it's like, well, who, it can be like, who should get the huts for the extra items, who should get these mini games for the lives, or you can be like, I want all this stuff because I'm an asshole and we're competing. And so there's an interesting, like, freedom of how you want to go about it, and I guess at any point the tides can change of how you feel about playing, and then you can switch it on the fly rather than having a different mode for each thing, But it's a ton of fun for that co-op, and like this game got some catchy tunes. I think visually it looks really nice in the sense that it has some really vibrant color choices in a lot of places, but also just the way things are drawn looks pretty detailed and cartoony, and I think it looks a lot better than the first Super Mario Bros. It has a better lasting aesthetic. It looks so nice that it's like, whenever I play Mario Maker, I always use the Super Mario Bros. 3 theme, like, a lot of the time, because I just think it looks so nice. Something about it's just very clear and accessible to me. Or I guess appealing is maybe a better word than accessible. And it controls like a dream. I don't think it controls quite as well as Super Mario World, but it controls pretty close. It controls really well. You have that momentum still, but you have a lot of control over it. You don't feel like you're necessarily locked into everything you do for your jumps. You have some control over that. Not to say that you're never going to make a mistake doing that. You probably still will, and once you made the mistake, it's made. But, I feel like you're not really hindered by, like, I'm too sluggish, I can't make the moves I'm supposed to do. Usually it's just like, if you make a mistake, you're like, oh, I just didn't hit a button in time or something, Like, it controls so well that it doesn't feel like you're trying to adjust to the game, the game's control. You're trying to adjust to the things the game is actually throwing at you. And it throws a lot of things at you. There's a lot of different things here. Even just like the simple balance between, like, do you want to use a fire flower? You can use it underwater, and you can shoot it at a distance. That's pretty helpful. but the raccoon suit lets you fly. It doesn't have the extra range with its hits, but it also can break blocks too. So like, there's a lot of things to consider. Like, what do you want to use for that level? The inventory system lets you kind of decide as well. You're like, well, I'll use this item for this level because this will be good for it or something, or maybe I'll save the items for later for a tougher one. You know, you have options of how you want to go about things, and it makes it just a lot easier to work with, I guess, play your strengths, like learn a level, use what you want to use what you need to use, and kind of gear it towards how you want to play. It's pretty interesting with a lot of those different nuances in the little power-ups and their trade-offs. And the levels throw a ton of different things at you. They're constantly throwing in new kinds of enemies, new concepts of, oh, here's a P-switch, and here's like these note blocks you can jump on, and there's just a whole bunch of really interesting little things they throw in there. And it never really feels like it gets to a point where it's like, here's everything, and now we're going to be using everything. It always feels like there's going to be something new here, and you're going to find it out. And while we're using the older things in more clever ways, because you already know about those. Along with each world having its own theme, so each world kind of has stuff from that theme in it as well. And it works not only with the mechanics, but with just the overall, like, I'm in this world, you know, like, I'm in the desert world, or I'm in the giant world. That's awesome. It's called Giant Land, where everything is huge. Love that world. And so, like, that's, like, a really interesting, just, like, fun, like, theming thing to go along with keeping it feeling fresh. So while it is, a lot of times, it's just a change of scenery, for some of that stuff, there's also new mechanics and things being tossed at you, as well as changing up how you use the old ones you already just figured out from the previous worlds. And it's quite a ride. And, I mean, I don't know, I guess there's not a whole lot else I can really say. I guess I also like the Koopalings are good bosses, I think, nice for like the end of the world thing. They're maybe a little samey at times. A few of them are pretty much like just palette swaps of the other ones. But they're a unique boss that you have to avoid a projectile, you have to avoid their bodies and their jumps, their jump arcs and such. And each one usually has their own little quirk to them, so you're not fighting the same boss over and over for each of those. But you still have an idea of what to expect for the boss, and it makes it kind of memorable that they're all doing that kind of thing, a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. The game is great. It's super fun. Like, it's hard to be like, this game is bad. But I will say it's not perfect, in the sense that there are some things I think maybe they could do better. I think it's a little lazy that all those small castles, they all have that same boss, and that boss, you can just jump on its head like 3 times immediately, and it only becomes a threat if you don't jump on its head immediately. Otherwise, it's super easy, and they just reuse it for every one of those. And they have slightly different rooms for them, but they're always the same, and they're always easily taken down in the same way, and that's a shame. I do think a simultaneous co-op would have been nice for the multiplayer. Yeah, like, they don't need it, and the levels weren't designed for it, so I guess they'd need new levels, and that might not be the best thing either. But that'd be the only way to really improve that, as far as that gameplay. I also think that they could have maybe just not had the competitive element of you can fight the other person in this Mario Bros. Thing, which, like, that could have maybe been like a third option on the main menu to just play that little game for it. Though I guess you wouldn't have the thing with the cards then, but mainly, I guess, I just don't like that, you know, doing that, then you just up your turn to do that, and then, like, the other person, if they were unhappy with the results, can just do it again themselves, and you just get stuck in this loop, and it's like, it halts the progress of the game, because when you're doing that, neither of you is progressing through the game. So I think that's one downside to that, part of it. I don't know, they could have either been taken out or implemented in a better way into the game. I think that the recorder whistle flute, I don't really like it that much. It's a rare item to find, and it's I don't know. It allows you to skip the game, but you'd have to like not like and or be bad at an entire world's worth of levels to make it worth skipping over it with that. And I just don't think that's doing a whole lot of service to it. Like, oh, you want to just skip all these fun levels? What a great item, you know. And then it's like the cloud to a lesser extent. I at least understand it. Maybe like that at least makes sense to me. Where it's like, oh, there's one level I can skip it. I think it's taking away from the experience a little bit with that, but whatever. It's like this level is really hard. I need to get past it, and I'm terrible at it, so I'll jump past it with this. Hopefully, this level you're having trouble with is not the airship or the castle. Otherwise, that sucks for you, man. And music note is a little weird too. It's like, I get it, you can bypass those guys if you want to, but it's also kind of like, well, you might as well get their power-ups and try to beat them. They're not usually that hard. And also, like, you see, just like, again, you're skipping over stuff that you could just probably do, and it would be more fun if you did it, or more beneficial if you did it. Also, maybe more music. That's a pretty nitpicky one. But more music would have been nice. Just having more themes. They repeat the same ones kind of a lot, but whatever. It's not a big deal. That's a very minor one. Also, the lives are a bit too abundant. I think that was my one other one. And the system of the inventory. Make the inventory larger, maybe, so you're not overwriting your latest item with whatever your newest item is. The one you got right before that just gets erased for the new thing you get without any choice in the matter. So like I wasn't really happy when that happened. So either I guess use the stuff in your inventory as much as possible if you want to not waste it, you know. Find a balance or something maybe within there, using it and not using it so it's never completely full in case you get more stuff. But the extra lives are just, you get so many lives, and if you get a game over, you can hit continue and you'll continue from the start of that same world. You have to do those levels over again. But it's like, that's not too bad. So there's not a whole lot of incentive to keep getting the lives and I guess the coins to get the lives, except that it feels nice to get coins for some reason. I don't know. It could have been maybe just better with the lives, where that meant more to lose them, or you didn't need to get so many. Maybe not. I don't know. They feel a little. They're on the edge of pointlessness at this point. I still see the value in them, and I think you also lose all your items and stuff if you get a game over too. I don't know, but you're not likely to get a game over unless you're new to Mario and it's one of your first times playing the game. Once you get more familiar with it, you're probably not going to be in danger of that unless you're doing multiplayer, where you're killing each other with that versus game, or you're you're just splitting out your resources so you have less lives overall. It's hard to say anything that's too bad about the game, though. Most of these, I think, are kind of nitpicky, or things that'd be like, they could do this, instead of things that are like, they shouldn't have done this. That's Super Mario Bros. 3. It's great. I had a lot of good memories playing it. It's still great after replaying it how many damn times. I'm still not great at it. I didn't get any game overs, but I was getting kind of mad at some of the levels because I'm not very good at games. And look, it's a great game. Everybody knows it. It's constantly considered not only one of the best NES games of all time, but one of the best games of all time. And I think it's for good reason. Not just because it's important, not just because it's very nostalgic to a lot of people, but because it's a great game. While it obviously has limitations of the NES, its gameplay, its design, certainly doesn't feel like it's really dated at all. And I don't know. I recommend it to everyone. Basically, do you like video games? You'll probably like Super Mario Bros. 3. It's pretty cheap on most of the like eShops and stuff. You probably find a version on a lot of different things. It's on the NES. It's on the Super Nintendo. It's on Game Boy Advance. You can get it on the 3DS eShop, the Wii eShop, or I guess the Wii Shop channel, the Wii U eShop. You can get it probably on the Switch whenever that does it. You'll probably be able to get it there. It's available widely. I think it's also on the Mario All-Stars. That's on the Wii also. It's a game that you can get, and if you can get it, you should, because it's great. You're probably not going to be disappointed with it. Funny story. I was going to get a shirt for this. I thought I had him. I was like, I have a perfect shirt. I have a Super Mario Bros. 3 shirt for the review, and I'll wear that for the review. And I was like, well, it's kind of small. Maybe I threw it away. I was looking for it. Like, maybe I don't have it anymore. And I found it. And it's Super Mario World shirt. So, oops. So, it's still good. It's just not appropriate. It's not appropriate. And I apologize. Also apologize for the length of this video, as this is the second time I've recorded it. Still no written review, but which you can look at in the description below, or hopeworldhq.com. But, it's still long. And I guess I just had so much to say about this game that I couldn't get it too much shorter. Hope that's okay. And again, check out that Real Person retrospective if you want to hear more about the reviews and whatnot. Linked in the description. And if not, then just thanks for being here for 100 episodes, because that's a lot. And I love reviewing games, and it's great that you guys are out there and you're watching, you're listening, and some of you are even interacting, and that's great. I'm not talking into the void, and that's awesome for me. So thank you for that. And here's to 100 more Real Person reviews that I will never, ever learn how to end.